Welcome back, everybody, to another phenomenal interview with a developer. Now, Suzy Jenkins has been a member of the Great Property Meet community for some years, but is now no longer living local. And I think it's only fair that Suzy tells us the Suzy story, who she is and what she does, and why we should listen to Suzy, because we're going to share with you a really inspiring development project, which will be coming up next. So, Suzy, thank you very much for joining us. I know you've got a passion, which is homelessness, and as a community, we also have that homeless passion. And you know, yourself and your mother and family have helped us raise funds for homeless in Rugby and Leamington Spa. So, who is Suzy, and what's your story?
Hello, Andrew. I have really missed the property meet, not being able to go lately. I am a heart scientist who became a builder. So 20 plus years ago, I trained as a bricklayer, followed by getting into the wood more, carpenter joiner, onto roofing. There isn't really a job on site that I haven't done and really loved. Apart from underpinning, I have to say underpinning is not something I enjoy. Sitting down in holes digging, no. Moved from that through to management, and for the past few years, that's really all I've done is to manage sites. I had the honour to manage the Floyd's Row homeless shelter build in the middle of Oxford, which was fabulous. But before that, as you say, we worked a lot in Rugby and the surrounding areas. We started out doing ex-local authority houses that were just really tired and sad, and making them into little flats. So rather than it being one house that could house potentially one or two people, we managed to get 2 or 3 really nice flats out of the properties, which we did for investors, and very happy to do because it filled a need. And rather than them having tiny, weeny, pokey bed sits, which was all that was really on offer, built to the minimum space standards, etc., we built nice places for people to live, which we think gives a far better way forward, because I think if COVID has taught us anything, it's being shut within 4 walls is the worst thing that many people can imagine. And hopefully now that has led to the investor market potentially becoming a little bit more aware of what they're building and where they're asking people to live, which Absolutely. I mean, that's what's driven my change of focus for new builds now.
So I think at new builds, Suzy, I mean, you were telling me about an old woolen mill. Now, I like commercial property, and I also like doing commercial to residential conversions.
As do I, as you know.
Woolen mill.
Woolen mill. It's beautiful, Andrew. Absolutely beautiful. There are 4 buildings still standing. One, not sure it should still be standing, but the other 3 are fabulous. The one has beautiful cast iron detail in the roof rafters. The other one is a really chunky, solid stone building. The walls are 1/2 metre thick. And it sits just by the river because it was a watermill. And as you know, I'm sure you know, my dad has an obsession with watermills. Yeah. And he's always said, find me a watermill in Devon. Well, we did. It was just a little bit bigger than the cottage that he really wanted. But that's how we found it. It was actually a generic search for watermills.
Well, I was looking at the spec of what you're talking about here. And when you say a cottagey type watermill on the river, this one
it's a bit bigger.
Has got lapse planning for 63 dwellings.
Yes.
Now, that's just a little bit of a watermill, 63 dwellings that meet space standards. So,
yeah.
And you're describing to me ornate ironwork, etc. So, are the challenges with things like listed buildings and stuff?
Yes.
Like that?
And the biggest challenge at the moment is actually getting, well, for starters, on those original buildings, is getting the planning through before they deteriorate. I'm not doing the planning on the listed buildings. That's being done by the current owners. I have an option over the site, and I'm focusing mainly on the new build, which is 40 plus of those 60 odd dwellings. But they've had a horrendous time actually getting the lapsed planning put back into place, because that's all they've gone for, is to reinstate what was there before. But the building with the true beauty of the roof structure is actually it's a commercial use rather than a residential, so it can stay like that. The idea is it'll be our sales and marketing suite, and once we're finished, it will be office space. So the people that are living there, yes, everybody will now have somewhere to work from home, because that's part of what we're doing. But sometimes you don't necessarily want to work from home, half term. And also sometimes you would potentially want somewhere to chair a bigger meeting, that sort of thing. So that's what we're looking at for that space, which will mean that the beautiful windows and the roof will stay. If we tried to make a house out of it, we'd lose it. Just to meet, just to meet the standards.
Office is what you're describing to me.
Yeah.
Fully functional in a modern but quaint sort of way.
Exactly.
Creating a real community there,
which is important.
Housing and working together.
And that's also part of what we'll do with all the green spaces as well, because again, I think if we've learned anything recently, it is that community is important. We have had to rely on others to help us, where previously we didn't necessarily do so. And I think people have found a real buzz from doing it and want to continue. There's a massive move of people from the cities moving down to Devon. It's horrendous down here at the moment. People are buying property on a Facebook viewing. And that's it, done and dusted. They're exchanging in hours. It's scary. It's worse than auctions. So obviously there's a real driving need. The actual beautiful stone building, the plan is to put it into 7 houses. Then there's an adjacent one, which becomes 9 flats. And then the one that I'm a little dubious on is supposed to be 4 houses. But that, I think, has a few design issues from what's gone in. And I aim to tweak that a little bit, I think. Okay. The real thing is the new builds, because we have the opportunity to do a proper sustainable development, and it should be there, because with the availability of the hydropower from the mill, a load of new roofs that we can put solar in. I'm looking at solar film, because that doesn't have the shading issues that your normal panels have, because it's different technology. It's run differently. If one panel is knocked out by a bit of shade, all the others continue to work, whereas the older technology, one bit of shade, the whole thing stops working. The only thing I don't know yet is how much it will be.
The technology on several of my buildings, and I know what you mean. You get a bird poo
and you get all the stuff underneath. I mean, I'm a big fan of New Lock, because they've got their roofing system I absolutely love, and they have inline solar panels, which has been the thing that I've really gone for previously. But then I found that you can stick the film onto the newer roofs, so we could potentially have a really snazzy metal roof and look properly modern, but have a solar panel stuck to it. And love it.
Well, we'll have to come back and do a follow-up interview looking at the finished product there.
And all the technologies, wool insulation. It's a woolen mill. We have to go down the route of wool insulation. There's a crisis in the farming industry at the moment that the wool is valueless. Yet when you go to the market to look for wool insulation, it's an absolute fortune. Well, to me, these two ends don't meet. There needs to be something in the middle. I'm desperately trying to do something about that. Because if we don't support our farmers, again, we with COVID, we've needed to be far more locally orientated, haven't we?
So what you're looking at is a holistic sort of community project where what's grown locally is used locally and is sustainable and replaceable as well.
Exactly, and the beauty of wool insulation is it absorbs all the nasties out of the air. So even if we can't use it on the outside walls, because we'd end up with massive thick walls, we can use it on all of the inter-room spaces. It controls the moisture, and it removes really nasty chemicals that people don't like us to know are in new builds.
No, absolutely. So this is an interesting project, and you were saying that it's being funded by Leo Crowdfund.
It is.
Now, Is there a website for that, for people to
Yes.
go over and find out how to interact with you via that fundraise?
Yep, Leo crowdfunding is there. They're also on YouTube. They have their own YouTube channel. It's all, the fundraise is all about how I can share with people at the same time as them hopefully following me through the journey, is how I share how you find a viable planning project, how you actually go through it, what processes, because yes, most people won't do something this big, they will do a house. But
Yeah.
the minute you move to something slightly bigger where you want to do 3 or 4 new builds, all of the information that we go through will be relevant, all of the reports that you need to do and the effects they can have. Even silly things like trees in the garden can have a massive impact on what you're doing. And all of these things we will have to cross because it's such a beautiful site and such a, well, it's brownfield, so we have contaminated land, things to go through, all of that complicated stuff, which again you have if you do smaller stuff. So it's a real learning opportunity as well.
Well,
And we all love crowdfunding.
Sounds to me like we will have to come and do a separate video just on how you've assessed it and prepared all of this, how you've planned the development through to de-risk the project. Yeah. And it sounds like if somebody wants to get involved through Leo crowdfunding, that they can learn, they can earn and own a slice of the
exactly. Oh, look at that. That was Leo's thing, learn, earn, own as well. Hey.
There you go.
Actually, reading through the documentation that we've prepared for the raise goes through all of the risk analysis, which is a big process. But as you say, it is always a risk if you're trying to get planning on something. But there are ways that you can mitigate that, and it's all about the research you do and the people you involve.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting project to follow. And if you want to follow Suzy's project, we'll put a link to it up here so that you can follow that project on Leo crowdfunding and join us in the future where we'll share more about how Suzy has assessed and planned that development. And also get in the car, because it'll be post-COVID at that point, and come do some on-site interviews to actually show this sustainable technology going in.
Oh, I'd love that. And anybody who knows the stuff that I don't know, because there is so much information out there, I can't absorb the lot as hard as I try. So anybody that knows something I don't know, please get in touch, because I'm on LinkedIn, because you and I were talking earlier about what they've been doing in one of the universities for hydropower.
Yeah.
This is all, although I have experts, they also don't know everything, do they?
No. And technologies move on, develop and progress. And what you have to do is stay current, stay up to date. And that's why on this YouTube channel, we try and bring that knowledge to keep everybody current and up to date.
Yeah.
Suzy, anything you'd like to share that you think people will go, oh, that's an interesting project. I want to know more and want to get involved in your learning, earning, owning via Leo crowdfunding?
I suppose active houses. A lot of people don't understand what an active house is. Most people know what a passive house is. That's become a lot bigger, but active houses aim to go one step further, which is to generate more power than they actually need for the house. That could just be transferable to charging your electric car. I have major issues with electric cars because I don't like the way the mining is done for the lithium, but I think that is the way the world is moving. So what can we do to help that along and make sure that the people on our development have the way to charge their cars in a truly renewable way, which maybe would be the hydropower, might be carports with solar on them.
Yeah.
But that would then make the houses, if they're going further than the need of the house, that becomes an active house. So that is fascinating. How far can we push the boundaries of these technologies? But I'm also, to the horror of my architect, pushing all the technologies. do we really need ground source? Do we really need air source? Are they actually the best way to do it? Because a proper passive house technically doesn't need a heating system. If it does its job properly, it doesn't need one. So why would we need to put the fortune that they are into a heating system? Maybe we don't actually need that. Maybe there is a better way. And this is all of the sort of thing that I'm working on at the moment, really pushing the walls out.
Well, it's where the legislation is, the trajectory of it is, and I think it's 2026, if I'm not mistaken, is when houses have to be built that they create more energy than they use.
Which is an active house. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's where the market is going, and you're just, shall we say, ahead of the curve.
Well, that's me always, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But I've also got another side to it, which is people not really paying attention to the needs of those less able in the community. When you look at a lot of new builds, there's nothing there. So part of what we're trying to design in is a flexible room on the ground floor, which could be a home office. It could be a suite, which is a room and a wet room facility for somebody who is less able and needs that little bit of extra care. How many families have a child or somebody who's had a nasty accident and all of a sudden has those needs, but their normal house cannot adapt to that? Well, if we build it that way in the first place, so that it works, then it also future-proofs to some extent. But I don't think the future-proofing is the most important bit. I think it needs to be available from the beginning.
Well, forgive me, I might have this wrong. You might know it off the top of your head. Is it part K of building regs, accessibility for disabled?
Yeah, but it's not far enough, is it? It's not far enough. Level thresholds, wider doorways, that still doesn't really tick all the boxes. It's when you design a kitchen, can you design that kitchen so there's space for someone in a wheelchair? Yes, okay, to have stuff at the right level for someone in a wheelchair can be more complicated, but you don't necessarily need to go that far. Does the breakfast bar need to be right up, or the island need to be right up in the air, or could it be lower? There's no reason why it needs to be right up in the air. Think about the circulation space, planning houses so that they are wheelchair accessible anyway, because yes, people put in the thresholds and the wider doorways, but you still can't navigate a wheelchair around them. And the building regs don't quite go far enough, in my opinion.
Well, it's interesting, and we've done a number of videos with somebody who you've know yourself, Mike Woods. He's an architect and also a great contributor to this channel, where we deep dive into the building regs themselves. So by all means, tune into the videos that we've got there, but also, hook up with Suzy via LinkedIn. We'll drop a link down here for Suzy's LinkedIn for you. And I think you asked if anybody could help you provide knowledge or input to your project.
Yeah.
You would dearly love them to reach out and share their experiences of sustainable development, new technologies, and how to make your development a true active development.
Very much so. Yes, thank you for that, Andrew. Much appreciated.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today, Suzy. It's been a delight. I look forward to coming down to Devon, sampling some lovely scones and clotted cream and jam.
Well, this is
Woolen Mill.
well, I'm a baker, but North Taunton has various very exciting. It's actually a lovely village. Is the other thing that drew us to it. It's very close to the main road links, which in Devon is important, because where you say something is 10 miles from the main roads, it's surprising how long it can take you to get to the main road. But North Taunton has all sorts of beauties, and I think there is a very nice cafe. So you may prefer the cafe's delights to what I bake myself. Although my solution to problems on site is generally tea and cake. So, but maybe it's a case of, eat my cake, it'll break your teeth. So do as you're told.
On that note, I think we'd better say goodbye for today. Suzy, thank you
Thank you.
very much for joining us. It's been fantastic to have a catch up. I'm so excited for your latest project. It's got all of those dreamy views of an old woolen mill.
Yep.
I looked at some of the video earlier of what you've got there and went, oh, what a dream project. It's one of those paintings. Is it Constable could have painted this?
And it's going to be such a joy to bring it back to being beautiful again and get it all sorted. I am so excited.
Yeah, likewise. I'm excited to see the progress of this project. I wish you very much success with your fund at Leo Crowdfunding. And until next time, it's goodbye from me, Andrew Roberts, and goodbye from Suzy Jenkins of the Old Woolen Mill.
Thank you, Andrew.